Okay, so as you can see, this is what we're working on. And why are we doing this? Well, this is a fairly large case, fairly inexpensive on Amazon, but there is no elevation to it. There's no riser. So the power supply and wireless bug, etc., random wires, all have to be run on top. If, however, we can run all of that under the small riser, then we have way more room for pedals, which is very, very good. So that's what we're trying to do, because every pedal board I've seen with the riser is really expensive and not very big, not actually as big as this unit for the most part. Most of the even remotely inexpensive ones are only about this wide and slightly shorter. So with this setup, the way we're talking about, we should get more room for pedals, up to maybe even as many as 16, depending on what size pedals we're running. So, sweet, let's do it. The plan is to build 3, maybe 4, I haven't decided yet, small slanted pieces of wood that will just kick it up like this, be about 1 inch tall here. And I haven't decided exactly what this in measurement needs to be. Tape measure to measure the rest of the box, and the pedals, make sure we have plenty of room. Now, the top surface is going to be expanded metal, or at least this is the plan, because the 1/4 inch jacks will fit right through that, allowing us to wire everything underneath quite neatly. Also, this will allow me, if I place the wireless bug underneath here, it will allow me to see the LED lights to tell when my batteries are going dead. So the first thing we're going to do is measure our tallest pedal and make sure we have plenty of room for it once we make our riser. So,
right where it sits, you see, get a good spot here.
looks like about 2 5/8. So, writing all this down because my memory. I need to measure the actual depth of the inside here, just so that I know how deep it is. And it is exactly 1 inch. Now, our other measurements are going to be coming out of this portion, which is the actual lid. Now, this is squishy foam, so I'm going to measure the foam compressed so I know how much space I really got to work with. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm pushing down on the foam. I don't know if you can see that, but it is right at 3 inches. So after measuring our box, pedals, and the power supply, and the other pedal we want to go underneath, surprisingly, the power supply is exactly 1 5/16 inch tall. The expanded metal is right at a 1/16 inch thick. And that is exactly how much space we have from the height of our pedal left over. Everything works out exactly. So as long as my measurements are right and I don't screw up, we need riser boards that at one end are 1 inch and at the other end are 1 5/16, and then we'll be able to just screw the expanded metal directly to it, and we should, in theory, be wonderbar. The other thing we need to know is I need to know how long to make the boards themselves.
And it looks like
We'll go 11 3/4, maybe a short 3/4. Okay, so we've got our boards. Obviously they're not slanted yet, but we'll see if they actually fit into our case. That is, if I can use a tape measure. And it looks like they are exactly what we want. Let's flip this over. We said we wanted, what did I say, 1 5/16 on one end. On the other end, however, we want only 1 inch. Now, this board is wide enough that we can do this on the opposite side as well. And repeat. Okay, now, because we're not going for pure perfection in every sort of the way, I'm going to use one of these boards as a straight edge on the other to get our lines. with our handy dandy close-up cam, you can see this is what we're doing. And the two outside pieces are the pieces we're actually going to use. The inside piece is not. And this device will be the downfall of the board. Again, I'm not going to show that to you because, you know, little Timmy might cut his fingers off. Okay, so we've got our pieces. Now I just have to figure out which ones are the ones we actually want here. They should all be the same size. So here we are. Smarter than the average bear. So use these as doorstops. The next thing, I think, is going to be to pull all of the pedals off the pedal board and set these in there and make sure everything looks good before we start cutting the expanded metal. So let's do that. Okay, now, due to the extremely tight tolerances with this, I may remove the Velcro off of the back just to make sure I have enough room that I'm not squishing things in there too hard. Yeah, we're cutting it down to the 32nd for sure. Now, what do you do with all the wires? Perfect. A box. We'll have spaghetti later.
These are dirty. I will show you. Boom. See, it's all sawdusty and dirty dusty. So, there's that. Little can there. Will at least help. It's not going to solve the problem entirely, but it might be good enough for what we're doing here. Yay!
Okay, so now we're going to lay our boards in and see what it looks like. Probably one over here. Looks pretty good. Let's measure it and see if it holds up. Looking exactly good. Exactly good on this end. Figure out where we want them exactly. It won't really matter because the holes in the expanded metal are quite large. I'm just going to use washers, I think, and some screws to do this. Again, this is kind of going to be a ghetto version of this. I don't know. I might paint these or something just to make everything match. Haven't quite made up my mind yet. We'll see. See, not looking too bad. All of our pedals over here. And this is what we're looking at. Okay, so at this point, we want to do two things. One, we're going to test fit the power supply. Make sure that it looks like it's going to fit under this. Also, I'm going to measure it for our final measurements for our expanded metal before we cut it to make it fit. B-cam activation! Okay, so here's our power supply. I'm turning it upside down so we don't have to worry about the thickness of the Velcro. We're going to lay it in here and look if that's going to fit, because we need, that is going to be tight. I don't know if you can see that. If the thing would focus, it's too dark and too light. But you can see that is a very, 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 very tight. I think it will be really exact. But it looks like it's going to work. So yay! The other thing we need to do is get our final measurements for our metal. The edges are going to be sharp, and I don't want to have that as a problem. So we know that these are 11 3/4, like exactly. So I think we will keep that measurement. We're looking at 27 3/8. looks like 27 3/8. As the astute among you may have realized, this is 24 by 24. So, gonna have to do a little magic on this. Have not decided yet how I'm going to attach the two pieces. If I'm going to do it over one of the seams so that they both attach to that would probably be the smart thing to do. If I do that, I will have more waste. So, I haven't made up my mind yet. Probably not going to show you me cutting this with a grinder because I don't want little Timmy coming back and being like, this magic marker. Okay, magic marker and a yardstick. Let's go off of this edge. Oh yeah, and the edges are sharp, so, you know, when I start bleeding, you'll know why.
Let's see. Let's go. Let's start. 11 3/4. Let's start in the middle. 11 3/4. And now we're at the end. 11 3/4. So now we'll have a good straight line if we line all three of these up.
Looks more or less like a straight line. I think I am going to hit these with a little bit of black paint, just because. Out of doors. I'm not looking for a perfect coat. I'm just looking so that it won't be so bright in the pedal board. Okay, so here are the tools of the trade. A grinder with a little cutoff wheel, something to hold it still, tape measure, some goggles. The astute among you will notice that this right here has been welded. And that is due to the fact that I was explaining this particular conundrum to my father, and he's just like, boop, 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 and welded it together. Yes, it is crooked, but that is my fault, because I'm awesome. Okay, now it's time for some test fitting. Interesting. I need to trim the corners out. I did not take that into effect. It's very, very close. But, this is what we call field fitting. Okay, back to the grinder, because I really want this to fit nicely. And I think we are so close. This is going to be awesome. Okay, so now we have our piece, and we will slip it, and it goes right in. Boom. Check it. A perfect fit, if ever there was one in this imperfect world. We set our power supply in where it's going to go. Well, more or less. I haven't decided which side. Set this on top. So let's just give it a quick try. So all I've done is attach the hinges. Let's see. Boom! Look at that. That is exactly what you want to see. So now we're going to take a bright colored marker and I'm going to mark where I'm going to use the countersink to drill for my screws to hold the expanded metal to the risers. We're going to take this and apply it to this. See if we can't get some cool colors to show up. As you can see, it's starting to get a little bit of color to it. I'm going to try to do it with one hand just for a moment so you can see what it looks like. Time for some clear coat. We're going to use this so we don't drill holes in the table. See, we have our little dots. Those are the marks that I'm drilling. I don't know how to show you this. Maybe if I... Probably not. Oh good. It's not working. Nope. Okay. So now that I've made a huge mess, we have these countersunk and they are ready for some screws without blowing up and splitting. Good Lord, man. It took me forever to find a broom. Okay, y'all. Paint is dry, and I don't know if you can see the colors on this thing or not, but it's friggin' awesome. So, you can see this was kind of showing the cool colors. It's kind of got purples and blues and golds and all sorts of neat stuff. You can see what we're doing here, just screwing these washers into the little pieces of wood. Okay, we activated our lovely B-cam. So you can see that now we have this portion all finished. And what's cool is it will come out and go back in without too much difficulty. I mean, I gotta yiggle it a little. But that's perfect for being able to get under there and fix stuff, but I don't want it necessarily falling out super easily. Not like I'll be turning it upside down, but even if I did, it's not the end of the world. With pedals, that might be a different story. So now, let's start figuring out some of this stuff. So, I know that I want this in the middle. This is my power supply. So I know I need it to go somewhere right there. This might actually make more sense. While we're at it, let's make sure the case actually fits over our pedals. Make sure that all of our measurements, well, I say my, apparently there's a mouse in my pocket. Let's make sure that all of my measurements were indeed legit. It's a little resistance right here, but that's because I measured into that foam. I wanted it to hold it. And boom! The box is sealed. Not the greatest. Maybe I got it crooked. Ah, there we go. Perfect. You have to be at least 10% smarter than the container you're trying to open. Where the heck are my scissors? What? This isn't the kind of scissors you use? So we will lay this bad boy out here. You know, I really don't need the two pieces together because we have lots of the hooks or the loops or whichever the heck end it is. So, let's just do this and get some spaghetti everywhere. That's not the end I need. This is funny. Ah, crud. Now we're talking. We are cooking with fire now. Or something like that. Oh my god, my finger! No, just kidding. Okay, so there is one. I'm going to go ahead and cut another one the exact same length because, go figure, it's a box and it's square shaped. Well, rectangular, whatever. But it's not really paramount that it be perfectly straight or any such nonsense. So in reality, it's actually the Velcro that, you know, is going to hold everything together. It's none of the screws, none of the metal, it's all the Velcro. But I can't freaking get off of here. I believe it's time to start playing with the spaghetti. Come on. Be nice. There we go. I'm going to set it right here. Wires. Okay, so my plan, now that I've got spaghetti a little sorted out, is to get all of the power stuff figured out kind of first. Off of there. Not a problem. So I need these wires. Then I'm going to feed them up through the board. So that I can more or less, just one lousy mosquito in here. And it can go to its home right here. So let me wipe off the blood. I told you that thing was going to be sharp. Huh. Go figure, I was right. Can't have blood all over the new friggin' PedalBoard. Cut it out. I think it stopped. Let's show our first power lead. It comes from in there. It comes across here and comes up right here for our first power run. So the next thing is going to be to get signal wires running to everything. And I will spare you a few moments of tedious wiring through things and get straight to the chase. This layout has changed a little bit. I got to realizing I don't use the harmonies anymore on this, so I don't need the guitar going through it to cue the key. So I decided that, and I'm not really punching in and out on it in the middle of any songs that I can think of. There's a couple that I might turn on the doubling for the chorus, but that's mostly only if the rest of the band forgets to sing their part. So, not really an issue. So I moved it up here so that all of these wires, they were taking up too much space on the board where all this stuff plugs in. So now that has to be removed every time you take it anywhere anyway. So this can sit right here on the edge. So the signal path comes into the wireless unit underneath here, comes up to the tuner, the saturator, the comp engine, the sweet cream, the boost EQ, the angel wing, the tape machine. I might switch those, but this layout gives me room if I wanted to, say, for instance, add the control pedal for the amp. I can do that, no problem. I could, put it here if I wanted, and still throw a wah on, and still have room for another pedal. So now you can see this is kind of what it looks like. Granted, I've just got the Marshall sitting there and the Crybaby sitting there, just for kind of demonstration purposes. You can see the line 6 wireless is underneath there. The power supply is all under there. The extra power wires are under this compartment here, and just has a really nice clean look. So now let's make sure the case still fits. Okay, Okay, so our pedals here in the back were just barely hitting. I just yiggled it a little bit, boom, closed. I didn't hear anything. Okay, let's open it back up, make sure everything stayed. Boom! Just like we left it. Alright, let's plug this bad boy into an amp and make sure we're good. Okay, so it is now time to plug it up and test it out. I've kind of set the microphone and monitor back up like I would normally have. I've got the pedal board right here, and you know what, I'm going to show you my perspective at the camera thing, microphone, monitor, and my pedal board right here. Okay, I can see the lights. Whoa, would you looky there. Let's do a little tuny tune. Let's test each pedal one by one here.